February 1945. Allied victory is riding on the flood tide. German communications and factories are seriously injured. The Germans are scraping up their last reserves. The German Air Force is only a shadow. Victory rides with Montgomery in the north. Victory with Patton and his Third Army along the Moselle. And on an 80-mile front in the south, victory with Bradley and the 12th Army Group. Before them stands Germany's historic moat, the Rhine.
On the 7th of March, a stroke of fortune. The 9th Armored Division of the 1st U.S. Army found the railway bridge which crosses the Rhine at Remagen partially destroyed but still usable. They promptly threw their advance guard across, other troops quickly followed, and soon over 4 divisions were on the far bank.
Went right on down to the bridge. The bridge was manned by German engineers in the towers. There were lots of snipers and some machine guns. The tanks covered the towers and fired on them. The Germans jumped from the tops of the towers to the bridge. They ran back across the bridge, and our infantry pursued them.
It looked like, they tell me it's only 250 yards. It looked like miles long.
Upon entering the bridge, searching for demolitions and finding that the first few charges we came to were wired electrically into a main electrical conduct running the length of the bridge. I immediately went to the far side of the bridge, and beyond the last charge that was on the bridge, severed the main electric cable by rifle fire.
I sent Eisenhower well-earned congratulations. Let me offer you my warmest congratulations on the great victory won by the Allied armies under your command, by which the defeat or destruction of the Germans west of the Rhine will be achieved.
The Allies attack the Siegfried Line. Over 300 miles of heavy fortifications. The Germans hold firm.
It availed them little, for Patton turned 5 divisions southwards across the lower Moselle. The defenders of the renowned and tested Siegfried Line were cut off, and in a few days all organized resistance came to an end. Thus ended the last great German stand in the West. Rhine, Montgomery in the north made ready to cross it. All our resources were to be used. I desired to be with our armies at the crossing, and Montgomery made me welcome.
One of the war correspondents there was Alan Moorhead.
At the last moment, Churchill arrived to see the show. And it was said that he was very angry with Montgomery because Montgomery refused to allow him to go over with one of the assault barges. And so he stood on a hilltop. And exactly at the appointed time, the bombers came over from England, a host of them flying very low down. And this was too much, I remember, for Churchill. He threw his hat in the air. He went running down the hill in the direction of the bombers, toward the river, shouting, "Here they come, here they come." It was a schoolboy's gesture, but it was so genuine, so moving, that I think all of us that day went on across the river feeling rather better than we imagined we would feel. And then the parachute troops came in, and the whole vast Allied army began then to move on to Berlin itself.
Was now in progress along the whole front, and I was conducted from one point to another. Eisenhower's march to the Rhine, the advance of the Soviet armies, Alexander's victories in Italy, convinced all but Hitler and his closest followers that surrender was imminent and unavoidable. Hitler alone was obstinate. The Third Reich was finished, and he would die with it. Several of his followers tried to make secret approaches to the English-speaking Allies via Switzerland. All these proposals were, of course, rejected. Our terms were unconditional surrender on all fronts.
These attempts are duly reported to the Russians by the British ambassador in Moscow. Molotov's response is blunt. He accuses the English-speaking Allies of attempting to negotiate a separate peace. Feeling that the fate of the coming United Nations conference at San Francisco is hanging in the balance, the Prime Minister decides to ignore the Russian insult. Instead of replying, he sends a message to General Eisenhower.
Why should we not advance as far eastward as possible? This has an important political bearing, as the Russian army seems certain to enter Vienna and overrun Austria. we deliberately leave Berlin to them, the double event may strengthen their conviction, already apparent, that they have done everything. Should Berlin be in our grasp, we should certainly take it.
Eisenhower believes that Berlin has lost some of its former strategic importance, and Stalin has given assurances that he will allot only secondary forces to the German capital.
This was not borne out by events.
April 1945. The Americans are concentrating on getting the war over with as speedily as possible.
The United States stood on the scene of victory, master of world fortune, but without a true and coherent design. Britain, though still very powerful, could not act decisively alone. Thus, this climax of apparently measureless success was to me a most unhappy time. I moved among cheering crowds or sat at a table adorned with congratulations and blessings from every part of the Grand Alliance with an aching heart and a mind oppressed by forebodings. Henceforward, Russian imperialism and the communist creed saw and set no bounds to their progress and ultimate domination. And more than 2 years were to pass before they were confronted again with an equal willpower. I should not tell this tale now when all is plain in glaring light, if I had not known it and felt it when all was dim, and when abounding triumph only intensified the inner darkness of human affairs.
April 1945. Once across the Rhine, the Allies cut deep into the heart of Germany. Cologne, Essen, and Frankfurt fall. The great industrial Ruhr Basin is encircled. But more than the industrial centers are taken. The death camps at Buchenwald, Belsen, Dachau are liberated.
The Ninth Army moved so swiftly that they crossed the Elbe on April 12 and were about 60 miles from Berlin.
April 12, 1945. Warm Springs, Georgia.
Franklin Roosevelt suddenly collapsed and died the same evening without regaining consciousness. When I received these tidings early in the morning of Friday, the 13th, I felt as if I had been struck a physical blow. My relations with this shining personality had played so large a part in the long, terrible years we had worked together. Now they had come to an end, and I was overpowered by a sense of deep and irreparable loss. He has brought his country through the worst of its perils and the heaviest of its toils. For us, it remains only to say that in Franklin Roosevelt there died the greatest American friend we have ever known, and the greatest champion of freedom who has ever brought help and comfort from the New World to the Old.
In the White House now is a man Churchill does not know. In the Kremlin is a man he is coming to know too well. In the bowels of the Reichschancellery, his ancient enemy is still at bay. In 10 Downing Street, Winston Churchill is truly alone.